Welcome to Well Traveled Life with Jonathan and Jennifer. Today we are in the South Island of New Zealand in the city of Dunedin. Although Dunedin is now the second largest city on the South Island, if you're coming by cruise ship, that is not where you will land. You'll actually dock in Port Chalmers. Both cities lie on the Otago Peninsula, which we'll talk a little bit more about, but there will be a shuttle bus that will take you from Port Chalmers into Dunedin if that's what you want to do. There may be a cost associated with that, $10, and those buses will run throughout the day every 15 minutes or so. Port Chalmers is a relatively small town, so there were not a lot of taxis or Ubers available. There is a tourist information desk right inside the port building, and there are lots of volunteers on hand, so you could find something to do once you're there. But I'm going to give you a couple of other options also. You may want to look at staying in Port Chalmers. It's a charming little small village. Or you could go into Dunedin, and we'll talk about that too, or go out to the Otago Peninsula. Dunedin is known for its moderate climate and actually has a little less rainfall than other places in the country, but I'm going to tell you I've never been there when it isn't raining and really windy. In case you run into that bad weather and can't get out on the water, let's talk a little bit about what you could do on land if you are in Dunedin and Port Chalmers. From the port, it's a really simple walk to get into Port Chalmers. This area has a long Maori tradition and history. Originally known as Po'otakari or later as Koputai, it was inhabited by Maori tribes for over 100 years before European settlers arrived. By 1844, though, Koputai had been abandoned by the Maoris and was deserted when the schooner Deborah arrived under Scottish command. Today, Dunedin gets its character from its Scottish history, the gold rush, and its wildlife. In 1849, Port Chalmers had a population of just 38 people, but that all changed with the gold rush of 1861, where 16,000 new people passed through Port Chalmers either to stay or move on to Dunedin. And by 1864, the population was at about 1,000, and not much has changed. Today, the population is an estimated 1,440 people, so it's a small town. Featuring the Tunnel Hotel, which is reportedly the longest running establishment in all of New Zealand, originally started in 1844, but the current building dates from 1875. The Port Chalmers Maritime Museum is small, and it's owned and operated by Port Otago and is the regional maritime museum. The Hoteri Garden Oputae is a sculpture garden that was started on land that was originally owned and housed the studio of Ralph Hoteri, who was a very famous Maori artist. The beautiful part of that is it's on a bluff overlooking the terminal. Dunedin, named in the Scottish Gaelic version of Edinburgh, which was the capital of Scotland, has a rich Scottish, Chinese, and Maori history. Again, the Chinese came over during the gold rush and the Maoris were here before everybody. We found a taxi driver that took us on a private tour and made sure we saw all of the highlights. On the Octagon, which is Dunedin's central plaza, you will find must-sees in the city include the First Church of Otago, the Anglican Cathedral, and Town Hall. There are also lots of trendy cafes and restaurants. And from outside the city, you'll find other treasures, like the beautiful lookout from Signal Hill, of course Larnach Castle, which isn't really a castle, it's just a manor estate. Especially on a windy day, make sure you get to Baldwin Street, which is the steepest road in the world with a 34.8% gradient. And when the wind is blowing you downhill or uphill, it can be hard to keep your balance. For us, the highlights of this part of New Zealand is going to be the wildlife. There are rare and endangered species that on a good day you'll see all of. Keep an eye out on the water for seals, sea lions, the little blue penguins, as well as the yellow-eyed penguins, and then look up in the sky and keep an eye out for the albatross. There is the Royal Albatross Center, where you can see them flying high over the opening to the harbor, high a row ahead. We took a private boat tour and were able to see the seals, the penguins, and a number of albatross, which was really exceptional because that's not always a guarantee. The albatross is that rare, large bird with a 3-meter wingspan. And here at the Royal Albatross Center, they have the only breeding colony on land in the world. Whether you enjoy the charm of the city or the grandeur of the wildlife, we know you will love this part of New Zealand. And if you did, join us for another in our series on New Zealand. Either move up the coast to Christchurch or enjoy the spectacular scenery, Fiordland and the Sounds.